Burridge, who was uh, not on who was not on council at the time, but she, as a private citizen, and she carried that leadership on into council, and she's been a really passionate leader of this great initiative, and I'm really grateful to her for her visionary outlook and approach to this great project. So, at this point, I'll turn it over to Councillor Jill Burridge for a few comments.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you all for coming tonight and giving us a little bit of your time to take a walk through this new campus. As the Mayor stated, this conversation on a community campus started 5 years ago. It actually started during the Public Schools Branch review in 2016. Community members from all over kind of came together under the umbrella at that time of the Home and School Association, who kind of led efforts to kind of look down the road and see what the Stratford student education path was going to look like based on enrollment projections that were being put forth at that time. So from there, a few of us went to work on a town committee, and basically that town committee was basically what we did is we advocated for new school infrastructure in Stratford. It was through those discussions that we discovered that the town at the same time was feeling a pinch with at that time specifically recreational facilities, and so we decided, why would we not look to co-locate those, future educational facilities with what the town was looking to build over the next number of years anyway, ball fields, soccer fields, whatever that strain was at that time. So why not look to co-locate those two things? That led us in 2019 to public workshops that were hosted by the town. We had a great turnout for those workshops to kind of go through needs and desires, what could be put on a potential campus in the future. And so those of you in the crowd, I'm sure there's some of you out there that, have followed this whole process all the way through, and we're at those workshops, and you're going to see that report generated that has been carried through into this final master plan. In fact, the report that will be put together for this and presented to the public, you'll see those need to haves, nice to haves, that was all itemized at that time. So that, we got Upland on board here, and they have done some consultation as well. And also we did a consultation on long-term budget priorities, which kind of helped us piece together a picture of what could be included in this campus in a conceptual way. At the town, we had a community campus planning committee, which has now morphed into a community campus implementation committee. And that includes an overlap of the provincial Stratford High School Planning Instruction Committee. So we have some provincial representatives on there, resident members, and town staff and council. So we've had a lot of people given their time over the last 5 years to try to bring this thing together. And I certainly appreciate all the people that have put their time into it. So the land was purchased this year, and that was really exciting. And now we have this master plan tonight that's going to be presented by Upland. As the mayor stated, we all know Stratford is a town of dynamic growth. And he mentioned as well that the census data that was captured last year put us at 11,400 in early reports. So our population has certainly grown and will continue to do so over the next number of years. We as council and mayor and council, we're eager to offer residents the public facilities and open space that are reflective of Stratford's size and population makeup. Schools, recreational and cultural facilities are key elements of a community, elements of the life in a community, and this gives us a plan to work towards, which is really exciting. The purpose of it is to develop a site plan with all the elements and amenities laid out in accordance with their relationship to one another. And its form and function will be able to evolve, continuously and adapt to what we need in the future. So that's it for me. I'm just happy to see you all here, and I'll turn the floor over to Stefan to start the presentation.
Thank you, Councillor Burridge and Mayor Ogden. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to jump right into our agenda for the meeting, and I should preface the presentation by saying that as Councillor Burridge pointed out, the information that we're presenting today will be contained in a draft report that's going to councils. As such, it will be a public document on a council agenda package, and tonight we're really just touching on the high points of the plan. If you want to dig into some of the details, I really recommend checking the council agenda when it comes up, and yeah, catch up on some of the things that you may not get an answer about today. So we have structured today's presentation into two parts. One is the foundational piece, which is really telling the story of how we got here, what the site offers, and how we set up our plan. And then on the right-hand side of the slide, you see our items to actually walk you through the development plan. We had a team, a multidisciplinary consulting team working on this. My name is Stefan Kolber. I'm the project manager on the team, urban designer and partner with Upland here in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. We also had CBCL Limited for various engineering disciplines on the team. That is the Charlottetown office of CBCL Limited. And we also work with our colleagues at RAD Architecture and Design for the indoor facility elements of the plan. Jill already gave a fantastic intro, so I'll cut this a little bit short with regards to the history of this plan. As Jill mentioned, this effort goes back a few years, and it is really an initiative that wants to prepare Stratford for this anticipated growth, and also to address some really current and pressing needs with regards to schools and recreation facilities. We were engaged in 2020 as a consulting team and have been working this year, and we're really glad we get to finish off the year with this presentation. Want to spend a little bit of time on the on some objectives that the town set up for this project, and I'm just going to read through those because those were really kind of guiding quotes for us as we were working on this plan.
Stefan, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to stop you for 1 sec. These slides on the screen are not progressing. We're still on the main screen.
That is not good.
So yeah, we can.
Let me just stop sharing my screen here.
Just that way everyone can see what's going on.
Yeah, kind of important.
It helps.
My presentation disappeared. Okay, give me 1 minute here.
Okay.
Okay, is that slide visible?
I see project history on my screen. Great.
I'm going to try to forward it. Oops, and see if that works now. Is
Perfect. It's
yeah.
moving.
Okay,
excellent.
good.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, so the objectives of the town of Stratford for the campus. First one was enhancing the quality of life. So behind the drive to create the community campus is a steadfast commitment by Stratford Town Council and community leaders to enhance the quality of life for all Stratford residents. The first of its kind Prince Edward Island campus greatly increases year-round access to sports programs for a growing youth community, contributing to a positive lifelong impact in their lives. In addition to youth sports, the campus will also offer an active transportation network of trails, green spaces, cultural spaces, and many other amenities. How are we addressing a need? As youth and adult programs continue to grow in our community, our existing fields and facilities are simply unable to keep up with demand. The community campus and its various amenities will make the arena and fields immediately self-sufficient and sustainable. We anticipate additional usage by community events, trade shows, and corporate gatherings. The possibilities are endless. Sorry, the next slide visible? Yeah, okay. The third objective was to deliver economic benefits. So whether it is for regional tournaments or an industry trade show, this venue will have the ability to draw visitors from all across the Maritimes. It will spur economic benefits to almost every local business category, from overnight accommodations to retail sales and restaurants. More importantly, the community campus will enhance business opportunities for current and prospective new businesses looking to open in Stratford. And with regards to momentum for the community, the growth and population trends for Stratford indicate a need for initiatives like this, especially when the momentum and enthusiasm are so high from the outset. The town of Stratford, community leaders and private citizens have formed a community campus task team that is dedicated to making the Stratford Community Campus a reality. A clear plan of action combined with a long list of engaged partners means this first of its kind venue is destined to be a jewel in our community. Stratford will truly be a desirable place to raise an active, healthy family. And from everything I've experienced, Stratford already is that kind of place. So we're really, this campus is enhancing the quality of life for Stratford residents and all the newcomers that are that we expect to move into the town. On the right-hand side, just for context, you see the brown area. That's the 170 acres of new campus lands, and it is really embedded in all the other recreational offerings that the town already provides. So you see a lot of parks in the area, the green spaces, other recreation facilities. And what this plan is trying to achieve is really add the missing pieces in a really coordinated and planned way. So Jill already mentioned that the previous round of public consultations in 2019 resulted in a really extensive list of need to have and nice to have facilities. So both on the school side of things, which is run by the province, and on the municipal side of things with regards to indoor and outdoor recreation and culture. This was our guiding list for the campus development, and the general spirit of this master plan is to try and accommodate all of these without necessarily saying that all of these will be implemented or will happen. But we have allocated space for all of them, and as needs, priorities, funding develop over the next 10, 20 years, we will be able to accommodate those need to have and nice to have elements. So we had we consulted with the abutting neighbor property owners. A letter went out to them, and we had a few small online group discussions. Got very good input from Bunbury Road and Mason Road residents. Heard their concerns and their hopes for the campus, as it is really a new addition to their immediate neighborhood. We also consulted with a few stakeholders, namely the province, the folks who will be responsible for the high school design, the high school design, Stratford High School Design Committee, Public Schools Branch, Recreation Department, and also the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure with regards to traffic and transportation. A few highlights to illustrate some of the site opportunities. The campus is well embedded into an existing road network. We have Hollis Street to the south, Bunbury Road to the north, and Mason Road with a few road right-of-way opportunities to connect to the west. We have transit running in the area that we envision to be rerouted into the campus. We looked at opportunities for active transportation connectivity. So this is the maps on the right-hand side are what we call commuter sheds. So they illustrate walking or biking times from the surrounding neighborhood into the campus. And Stratford is a large town. You can see on the right-hand side, for example, the blue area is would be a 15-minute walk. The green area is a 30-minute walk, and the pink area is 45-minute walk. So we have to be quite realistic that not every Stratford resident or school kid will walk to this campus or bike to the campus. We have to make accommodations for other means of transportation, vehicular and busing. The province was also quite clear to us with regards to their needs for parking, and those are realities that we're working with today. They might change in the future, and we certainly put a great emphasis on connecting the campus lands via trails, multi-use trails, hoping that we could see in the future a modal split that is tilted more towards active transportation for all the benefits, health, emissions, and so on that we're all aware of. Surface drainage, usually when a large development happens, neighbors are concerned about impact on their properties with regards to potential changing of surface drainages, flooding their basements, things like that. This site happens to be sloping away from all the surrounding neighborhoods to the east into the Bunbury wetland and forest area. And that works really well for our development. We'll talk about stormwater management towards the end of the presentation a little more. Water and sewer connectivity is good. We have, in terms of land, what we call land types. So that describes essentially different vegetation types or land utilization types. Most of the land is currently agricultural or former agricultural land that is still cleared. And then in the south eastern corner, we have some white spruce and red maple, and we're not touching those areas. They will remain undeveloped with regards to campus lands. And then we also looked at microclimatic conditions. This has to do with orientation of sports fields, gaining or utilizations, passive solar gains of buildings in the way they are oriented on the site, wind patterns to create good conditions for outdoor fields and so on. I want to spend a little bit of time on our 10 design principles. These are really the foundation for our plan as designers, and we're hoping to enshrine them in this document as a kind of a also the guiding principles for the next 10, 20 years of campus development, and for hopefully people, future designers, future counselors, to check back on these principles and really compare decisions to what we've agreed to in 2021 as design team, committee, hopefully council, to make sure we're all moving in the same direction. And again, all of this is draft, so please let us know if you have concerns, input, other ideas. We'll let you know there's avenues for input. So I'm going to read through these in more detail. We have our first principle is to create a sense of place and identity, fostering a distinct campus experience. And what does that mean? The comprehensive planning process involving both the town and province provides a unique opportunity to build a complete recreation and education community integrated into the surrounding and growing fabric of the town. Through the collaborative design development, key campus elements can be arranged on the site in ways that create physical spaces that foster a true campus experience and unique sense of place. Our second principle is to respect, restore, and protect natural systems and habitats. A linked system of natural areas and open spaces along the existing streams and new naturalized draining systems will form the public space armature of the new campus community. From these green campus elements, open spaces will transition into the untouched mixed forest and wetland habitat of the Bunbury Forest and Wetland Conservation Area. Our third principle is to respect and reference the distinct cultural landscape of centuries spanning agricultural use. The patterns of field and windbreaks on the campus greenfield site are the result of several centuries of a two-way relationship between humans and the environment. The resulting landscape morphology has become a key element of the physical and cultural landscapes of Prince Edward Island. Protecting and referencing elements of this farming history to the extent possible will safeguard some of the land's character, enable interpretation, and draw on the benefits of microclimatic conditions established by farmers over time. Our fourth principle is to provide an interconnected and balanced transportation system. A fine-grained interconnected street network will ensure that all trips to, from, and within the campus site are as short as possible, disparage congestions, and are compatible with walking, biking, and transit. The location of transit stops and active transportation infrastructure will enable convenient non-automotive circulation throughout the campus and encourage active modes of transportation for school students and recreation facility users. Our fifth principle is to mitigate impacts on established neighborhoods and enable the integration of future residential areas. Being close to established single-dwelling neighborhoods, the campus elements will be located in ways that minimize adverse effects to existing residents, while also enabling them to enjoy new recreation facilities. Schools and recreation facilities will be located nearby future higher residential densities that enable children and youth to access their schools within a short walk or bike ride within a complete community. Number 6 is to provide diverse recreation experiences. The campus will balance active recreation areas designed for recreation activities that require purpose-built facilities as their primary function, with passive recreation areas for recreation activities that do not require purpose-built facilities and emphasize the green space aspect of the campus as their primary function. Number 7 is to facilitate efficient use of public spending and by enabling the sharing of community recreation and transportation facilities. The layout of the campus will facilitate the sharing of recreation facilities, parking, and transportation infrastructure between the province and the town, and between the town and neighboring municipalities and surrounding areas. Public spending across jurisdictions all has the same source, the taxpayer. Number 8, create a forever place that will serve the needs of generations to come. The campus will enable the adaptation to future recreation needs by providing logical spaces for growth, expansion, and multi-use functions. The campus will be able to evolve over time and to adapt to changes in philosophies of work, education, and recreation as they emerge over time. First and foremost, the campus will play a key role in bringing people together and providing a retreat. As a special and forever public place, the campus will serve all citizens of Stratford. Number 9, and I should advance my slides. The campus facilities will have the ability to draw visitors from all across the Maritimes and spur economic benefits for current and prospective new businesses. With equal importance, the campus will enhance the quality of life of all Stratford residents by providing year-round equitable access to programs and facilities, regardless of age, ability, and financial needs. And our last principle is to provide lighter, greener, cheaper, and smarter infrastructure. The campus will play an important role in the coming decades as the town and region adapts to climate change. As a large-scale urban green space, it will provide an exciting testing ground for low-impact green infrastructure and will be critical in helping the town meet its sustainability goals and build resilience for an uncertain future. So at the outset of our plan, we went through 6 different spatial scenarios that we discussed with the steering committee, and those were really meant at a high level to figure out what can we do with the 170 acres and how could pieces fit together on the site. So for orientation, we have as a yellow circle the high school, the planned high school. We also have a town reserve for future development. That's the orange circle. We have the indoor facility, which is primarily for recreational and cultural uses. We have the outdoor facility, outdoor recreation fields, green. Some of these concepts have an entrance plaza, campus entrance plaza, and common to all concepts at the southern extent of the site is a business park expansion. So in the first scenario, we anticipated locating the high school at the northwestern tip of the site, and this is a site that's preferred by the province due to its elevation and adjacency to the neighborhood and potential future residential development. We have the town reserve lands, orange bubble, immediately to the south and surrounded by fields, and have placed a recreation facility between the business park and the future reserve lands. I'll make this a little bit shorter. Again, I'll refer you to the report. The second concept is a variation of number 1 in that it situates the recreation indoor and cultural facility up near Bunbury Road. So that's again, the purple circle. Scenario 3 puts the recreation or the indoor facility between the high school and the future land reserve for the town. Number 4 creates some green space. I should point out as one of our key connections into this site is this extension of Jubilee Road. So that's coming in here. In scenario 4, you would come in Jubilee Road and be met by open space, and then at the back of where the road terminates, you would see the larger indoor town facility. Number 5, again, similar concept, but again, exploring the opportunity of the indoor facility near Bunbury Road. And number 6 puts the town reserve land near Bunbury Road and arranges the other pieces accordingly. So these were all vetted by the committee, and by a large number of committee members. The preferred option was number 4, and this is what we've worked with, and we'll show you in those development concepts how we develop those further. So without further ado, here's the draft development concept. In this image, it's embedded in the larger context. It's our graphic designer blended into the aerial photo, so it's almost invisible on the side. If you can see my mouse, it's right here. We have the Trans-Canada Highway running on the western side. Along the western side, we have Mason Road here, Hollis Street to the south, and Bunbury Road to the north. And I'll take you further into the layout. So one of the one of our almost most important goals was to really create a site that has a real center of gravity and center of activity. So grouping functions together in a way where buildings and their users can interact. They create street walls and street experiences that are the opposite of a what could be a strip mall development, for lack of a better comparison. So what we're trying to illustrate with this circle is really this experience of arrival from 3 different directions at a center of the campus. So we will explain all these various elements on the next slides, but just to point out what those numbers mean. Number 1 would be the high school, new high school. Number 2 is the town indoor facility. Number 3 are the future reserve lands for the town. Number 4 is the business park to the south. And number 4 is the Island Gymnastics Academy. So what is the indoor facility? We just as a building on the site, it is meant to really hug our main circulation road that runs from Bunbury Road down to Hollis Street, and allows for straight uninterrupted flow through the facility. So we have a main entrance that it's essentially an extension of Jubilee Road. That has a grand entrance with an entrance plaza as a really visible landmark building on the site. There's a number of secondary entrances, and it should be a fully accessible building with elevators on each end. And we envision some viewing areas, common spaces that really take advantage of this orientation towards the Bunbury Forest. To take you in a little bit into the floor plan, we have. I want to caution you: the floor plan you see here includes both the must-have and the nice-to-have elements. So things like a multi-use indoor field, curling rink, an arena, cultural multi-purpose space, daycare, pool. And really the purpose of the architectural development of this floor plan was to forecast the maximum future spatial need on the site. So how much square footage could a building potentially have in 10, 15, 20 years, and how would it fit on the site? So there's the way the building was designed by our architect is that it grows from the inside to the outside. So here would be our main entrance, and from that, the building could be added onto as, again, needs arise, funding is available, priorities are identified by the town. Almost envision it a little bit like an airport type building that has room for expansion. So to take you a little bit further into the site, again, we have this north-south running access main spine road between Hollis and Bunbury, and then the Jubilee Road extension that takes us right to the entrance plaza of the facility. There's ample of parking on both sides. We did orient and lay out the parking in a way where it is not a large uninterrupted asphalt surface. We wanted to keep the building as close to the street and also have a lot of landscaping and stormwater, rain gardens, elements like this integrated into these parking lots. So you would, you can see in these parking lots, there's several drop-off areas, personal vehicles, potential bus drop-offs, and then really easy access into the building from various access points. On the back, again, you could envision yourself walking through this main atrium and coming out on the other side where we have the cricket field. And the entire building is also surrounded by a service road just to take care of the loading and access needs for facilities, restaurants, equipment, so on and so forth. The Island Gymnastics Academies that located directly north of our indoor facility, and this is an opportunity that came up for the town to secure the academy with a lease agreement to Stratford on the campus site. So this they are looking for about 2.5 acres. They have some conceptual designs, and when we were asked to locate them within the campus, it seemed first advantageous to have them right at the Bunbury Road access to the north for reasons such as not needing long access infrastructure for roads, water, sewer, things like that. We did follow the suggestion, and there was consultation done by the town. We received some messages, phone calls as well, of concerned Bunbury Road residents that the facility was too close to their homes. They were worried about traffic, parking, lighting. And we all agreed as a committee that it was indeed not a good location for those existing residents. So we moved the facility further down into the campus, and is now next to the recreation or the indoor facility. This is our future reserve land. So the town has made a strategic decision to hold a reserve area within the community campus plan for a future intermediate school should the province identify a need in years to come. The provincial 5-year capital plan does not include one. However, the town has endeavored to design this campus as a forward-looking and, given the population projections complemented by the younger population demographics, it would be prudent for the town to ensure the space is available for development for an intermediate school should that opportunity arise. So this is simply good planning for the future. There is a lot of infrastructure going into these campus lands, and you want it to go into the ground with a really good rationale for how the spaces on the campus can be used. So that essentially is, we're showing a building there right now. In the future, until a purpose of land use has been decided, this will remain a green area on the campus. Some details about the school. This is I would say, probably the most advanced project in terms of the planning that has been done on the provincial side of things. So the province asked for 37 acres of land in this northeastern location. We again, to test the site capabilities of our campus lands, we did a concept design for the school site, but I should point out, just so that everyone understands, the actual site planning and detailed design will be carried out by the province. So they are comfortable with seeing that we can accommodate all their needs on these 37 acres, but the layout of the land might look very different. So what are the parameters for the school? So we're talking about 750 students with some expansion room, about 80 employees, would be a 140,000 square feet building with some extension room. You can see we have some dotted lines here, so there's room to extend the school to the south. We have 2 multi-use fields for rugby and soccer north of the school, and a smaller field for field hockey. Parking needs for high schools are quite large. Students like to drive. We were asked to accommodate 240 spaces for staff, students, and guests, so they are in front of the school here. And we have some additional overflow parking here, 49 spaces for larger sports events, and also 29 parking spaces for school bus drivers. And what the province was asking for as well are some electrical vehicle bus charging stations. So they're here at the back of the site. So to orient yourself again, you would, as a driver, as a bus, you would come in. So this is our main north-south road, or you'd come in from the Jubilee extension. You would turn in here. There would be car drop-off areas. There's bus drop-off areas. There's the entrance plaza. There's the school parking lot. We've had discussions with the school representatives to potentially have this parking available as overflow parking for our town-owned indoor facilities when there's larger events and school is not taking place. So they are open to discussions, and it all needs to be put into solid contractual agreements if that were to happen. But essentially, generally, the sharing of facilities such as parking is really would be a desired outcome for the final plan. We have 3 municipal parks, so the campus lands are bookended by a park each to create a pleasant entrance experience. On the north for Bunbury Road, to also buffer more intense campus uses from residents. And from the south, as we come through the business park, really to create a separation between business park and the campus lands. And then the kind of crown jewel of open spaces is this, the central park here, or campus park as we call it. It's this area here. And that is really meant to accommodate more casual recreation uses such as natural playgrounds, a sculpture garden, outdoor amphitheater, and handle such thing as outdoor yoga classes, art classes, Tai Chi, etc. So this is really a large public park that can be used by the students, by the users of the indoor facility, by just residents from nearby who want to go for a run. There could be an outdoor skating rink or a skating trail as we envision it here. And yeah, really just a nice park that is at the center of our site. How are we doing for time? Oh yeah. Okay. The outdoor facility concept. So those are the fields, essentially. Again, we took direction from what the consultation of the previous years had yielded. So we have to the north a soccer venue. So that's a few larger fields, medium fields, smaller fields, and parking for 140 cars. And to the south, we have a venue for bat and ball sports, cricket, baseball, basketball, tennis courts, pickleball, and parking for 109 cars. And parking can also happen along the building, obviously, if there's more needs. Generous drop-off areas everywhere, and room for also team buses to drop off folks when there's tournaments on the weekend. Traffic. This is an image that really shows you quite distinctly how the circulation is envisioned on the site. So we have, again, mentioned it a few times, our our spine road running from Hollis to Bunbury. We have one connection currently to Mason Road right here. And then the secondary access loop here for the high school and the future town reserve lands. We have our traffic engineers projected a need for about 500 parking spaces, so they all accommodated across the site. We envision 3 bus stops, one at the business park, one at the main, at the core of the campus lands, and then another one up at the soccer facility. And since traffic is usually a main concern particularly for surrounding residents, I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about some of the highlights of the traffic assessment, as well as some mitigation measures that our traffic engineers are proposing. So the school and business park expansion would account for the vast majority of morning and afternoon peak hour trips. The morning peak is noticeably higher than the afternoon peak because the school traffic generally occurs before 4 p.m. But what our traffic engineers are saying is that much of this traffic would actually not be new traffic because the new high school would allow Stratford residents to stay in Stratford instead of going to the existing high school in Charlottetown as they do now. So therefore, the trips associated with the school is traffic that is already on the roads during the morning and afternoon peak periods. It will simply be redirected to the community campus instead of crossing the Hillsborough Bridge. Similarly, some of the traffic to and from the campus sports fields may be redirected from the town's current sports facilities. Business park traffic, however, would be new. The indoor facility peak traffic would follow event schedules. When we would expect the highest traffic to be on weekends and during weekday and evenings. Only the school morning peak and the business park peaks coincide with the peak traffic of the adjacent street network. And the expectation would be that the peak traffic times for the overall campus would be during off-peak times for the surrounding road network. And what our traffic engineers are saying is that that is beneficial to the town because the road network has more available capacity at these times and therefore is more able to absorb added traffic generated by the campus. There are a number of really interesting mitigation measures that our traffic engineers are proposing. And again, I think it's worth spending a bit of time on that because it will, obviously the new demand will impact surrounding areas. So a few traffic concerns and potential mitigation strategies. One concern would be that the proposed campus access on Bunbury Road will increase traffic in the area. What the opinion of our traffic engineers is that the Bunbury Road entrance would be 2 kilometers away from the Trans-Canada Highway. Since the speed limit is low and it is a more residential area, most drivers from the Hillsborough Bridge and Stratford areas south of the Trans-Canada Highway will likely find travel times to the Jubilee Mason or Hollis access points to be shorter, so they would tend to not use Bunbury Road. Much of the school traffic that currently uses Bunbury Road, for example, from Fort Augustus and Mount Herbert areas en route to Charlottetown, should be removed from the section of Bunbury Road between the campus and the Trans-Canada Highway. Most school traffic from other parts of Stratford and east along the Trans-Canada Parnell Road corridors will use the Mason Road or Hollis Avenue entrance. Most business park traffic will use the Hollis Avenue entrance. Having multiple campus access points will help to disperse traffic and enhance overall circulation. And the Bunbury Road entrance could be designed as a secondary access point to discourage non-local use. This could be done by keeping the roadway as narrow as practical, for instance, with no turning lanes on Bunbury Road, not installing prominent campus signage, and possibly by employing trees and shrubs to help obscure it. Another concern would be traffic speeds on the main campus road. The alignment for the main campus road will include several horizontal curves as well as some vertical curves, and these will help to control traffic speeds. The overall road width should be minimized. Lane widths of 3 meters would be appropriate. The presence of on-street parking would help to control speeds, but if provided, it might only be used infrequently for overflow purposes after off-street parking lots filled up. Empty on-street parking spaces wouldn't induce lower speeds, and effectively wider roadway might encourage higher speeds. Therefore, on-street parking is not recommended. It is anticipated that traffic flow along the main road would not have any stop signs and would generally be uninterrupted. Therefore, a roundabout is proposed for the main internal intersection between the schools. This would serve to slow through traffic and enhance access to and from Jubilee Road and Mason Road. So you may remember on the plans, we don't currently show a roundabout. This is still something up for debate as we finalize our plan. And other concerns would be students walking, hiking to off-campus food outlets and amenities. The campus should include active transportation facilities and network connections that provide safe and comfortable access for students to walk or hike from the schools to the town commercial areas. Additional off-campus active transportation facilities will be needed to complete these routes. Paved multi-use paths that are buffered from roadway traffic would serve this purpose well. Then another concern with drivers shortcutting through the campus between Hollis Avenue and Bunbury Road. The road may be attractive for a few trips between Bunbury Road and the business park, but will not likely be in high demand as a general shortcut route. Implementation of roundabout and the main internal campus intersections should help to discourage this behavior. And last concern, school traffic access and circulation. We understand that the public schools branch will design the school site, including access, circulation, bus areas, drop-off lanes, and parking lots. Care will be required so that the school sites are well integrated into the campus roadway and active transportation networks. So speaking of active transportation, this is our trail network on the site. We have both multi-use trails and walking trails. So anything green would be a 3 meter wide asphalt multi-use trail. So one would run along our central road, and then we have another one looping around the entire campus land as well. And then internally, there's a lot of trails to get from not only parking to fields, but also from the campus to surrounding areas. So the extensions into the future wilderness area, Bunbury wetlands and forest area are really key, and also connections into the surrounding land, Mason Road. If the land between Mason Road and the campus gets developed, these active transportation connections are really important for those new residents, walking access to the school. We also have the new proposed development by the Gray Group near the Trans-Canada Highway. All of these are potential school population that we really want to entice to walk and cycle to the school, and also the recreation and cultural facilities. Quickly, stormwater management. We've had our engineers look at the pre-development and post-development conditions, and the goal of these analyses is to really make sure the post-development stormwater impact is not greater than the current impact. So essentially, by paving large areas, buildings, and so on, we're creating a much quicker stormwater runoff as opposed to an undeveloped field where water just seeps into the ground. And what we need to make sure is that runoff gets slowed down. So our engineers have calculated the size for these stormwater ponds. So they're essentially constructed wetlands. That would be 3 located on the eastern side, so the bottom of the slope of the site. And what these ponds do, they absorb all the quick runoff from a storm event and then release it slowly into the existing natural stormwater system. So in this case, the wetlands over here. So what currently, this came up as a question in a previous presentation, these what you see here, these orange lines, those are not pipes. They are just illustrating stormwater release from the ponds into the natural system. And climate change impacts and everything were incorporated into these calculations. The town also has really ambitious sustainability goals. There is the intent is to have the campus operate as a net zero operation. We had our renewable energies consultants calculate the energy needs and the sizing of particularly solar panels. So what we found through our analysis is that we can easily supply power for sports fields lighting, site servicing, and road and path lighting. This could be accommodated by a solar field, approximately the size of on this image here, which we relocated in the just next to the business park. The indoor facility, however, is in the full build out has significant energy needs. You can imagine with ice surfaces, lots of lighting, heating, cooling, and so on. We can accommodate some of those energy needs through solar panels on the roof, but by far not all of it. So we asked our consultants to give us some advice. What can we do to get closer to net zero? And aside from some efficiencies to gain with future building technologies that will make the lower energy consumption, things like using facades for solar panels as well. There will likely be a need for some off-site purchase of renewable energies, so either from third parties or town-owned solar fields somewhere else in the town. And that's simply due to the fact that we're maxing out we're running out of space on the site. We don't have space for a large solar field. Okay, I went a little bit over time. I apologize for it. I want to hand it back to Councillor Burridge for just a minute to talk about next steps, where this is going in terms of the approval adoption process, and then we'll launch into our question and answer period.
So next steps for the town is we're going to field your questions, and I see some great points coming up here in the chat that we will take note of, and we're going to bring all this back to a committee meeting in January. We'll also at that time be looking through Stefan's final report and running that through the committee as well. The committee would make a recommendation from there to council once they feel comfortable with what's being presented and what the plan looks like, and then that would go to council at the next available town council meeting for a resolution to accept this campus master plan. And so and then from there we'll get to work. We do have applications in for funding for our main priority in our applications to infrastructure funding this year. Our number one priority was servicing the campus. So if that funding does come through, we'd be looking to break ground in the spring and specifically build that road, that spine road through, and bring the services along with it, as well as lighting along the road and an active transportation trail that runs along that spine as well. So those would be the next steps, I think. And Robert Hughes is on this call. If he wants to jump in at any time, he's more than welcome to. Robert. Other is, I think that's next steps, Stefan. I don't know.
Yeah, that's great. Very, very good. Thank you. Yeah, we'll be obviously recording your questions today, and also should jump to the next slide. If you got more questions, if we don't have an answer for you today for a question, or we run out of time to answer a question, please send your questions to this info@townofstratford.ca email. And we're finalizing the report in January and then submit it to the town. Okay, I think with that, we can launch into questions.
Great. So for those who are just, who kind of joined us partway through, so there are some questions that we're going to go through right now that folks have been asking kind of throughout in the chat. But if you would like to ask a question, you can also click the reactions button on your toolbar and click raise hand, and we'll get to you once we get through these questions in the chat. So we'll get started there. So the first question that we had in the chat is about the indoor facility, and a question about whether or not it would be owned by the town and accessible by the public, or will it be a business?
Yeah, the indoor facility is a town owned facility and open to the public. There might be opportunities for small business, such as a skate sharpening shop or a canteen, but the recreation and cultural spaces that might be in the facility would be all for public use and subject to the fee structures that the town has at the time with regards to covering expenses, making sure there's equitable access for folks with lower means and so on. So yeah, 100% it's a public facility.
The next question that we have in the chat is if you could give examples of what would go in the town reserve land areas. And there was kind of a follow-up question by someone else there. It says, does town reserve equal future junior high?
Yeah. So, and I will try and go back to slides as we discuss a certain topic area. So it is, you're quite right. The intent of the town is to provide potential future space for an intermediate school, but again, the province has not confirmed anything. There's no plans by the province to build a school, so this is not as advanced of an idea or plan as the high school. So the high school is happening. The future town reserve could be an intermediate school, it could be some other public use, but the spirit of the campus is that it would be a public facility of some type and character.
Great. We then had some questions around, so one of the questions we had was, will there be parking with solar panel covered areas to help make the facilities net zero, as well as EV charging ports spread throughout?
Yeah, that's a really great suggestion. And you may have seen these carports with solar roofs, and we discussed it at the committee as well. Definitely an opportunity there. As I mentioned, we're kind of running out of solar array space on the campus, so this would be a great solution. And electrical vehicle charging for sure. That would be, I would say, by the time we see this campus build out, those will be a no-brainer across any new development.
Yes, they're becoming ubiquitous. We also had a question, and I know this one I think will be more so towards Jill. perhaps, but there was a couple of questions around the timeline around the high school and when that project is anticipated to be complete.
Yeah.
So the high school, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Jill.
Okay. The high school currently, I do sit on that planning instruction committee. So their goal is to open in fall 2025. Construction, they would hope to start construction in 2023. They just put an RFP out today, actually, for the architectural and architecture and design for the high school. So the next year will be a lot of architecture and design of that school, and with the hopes that in 2023 the construction starts. And I'm sure Raymond actually is on this call. She's the project manager for the school, and she's also a Stratford resident. So she could certainly, not to put her on the spot at all, but if I'm saying anything wrong, she could certainly speak up, but I think I'm right.
Great, thanks, Jill. I think that answer is one that is making a number of people happy on this call. The next question was around accessibility, and a question about whether or not there'll be an accessibility audit conducted for the spaces by disabled folks or experts prior to finalizing these plans.
Not at this stage of the project, but it would certainly be good practice if the town. I think that may have been.
Yeah, I think it was a
call.
An unmute by mistake.
Yeah, yeah, it would certainly be good practice, and what I'm not sure in where we are in Prince Edward Island with regards to accessibility plans, but that's something that municipalities engage or develop here in Nova Scotia one by one, essentially coming up with plans that ensure accessibility of any municipally provided infrastructure. So I don't want to commit the time to it, but I think it's quite it will likely happen. I was going to say.
Great. We also had a question around, with the road going through the middle of the campus, question around how children are going to be, safely able to cross the road. Curious if there are, plans for underpasses or anything like that, or a planned speed limit. We may be too early in the process for that, but.
Yeah, so this is not a large collector road. It's not a 4-lane similar to Trans-Canada Highway type of road. It's a 2-lane road with narrow lanes, so 3 meters is as narrow as you can go, and so that would really enable short road crossings. So the intent would be to have all the crossings surface crosswalks, so no underpasses, overpasses. Those just create a false sense of security for drivers to speed, and generally not very pleasant pedestrian experiences as well. So all of this would be crosswalks, traffic lights, and bump outs in this and sidewalk bump outs to make crossing distances across roads as short as possible.
Absolutely. I think those underpasses and overpasses also, they do present an accessibility challenge as well. So those level crossings do tend to be kind of, the advisable move. Another question around kind of implementation. So there's a question here about when will the connection to Jubilee Road be constructed? Is this planned before the high school or at some point in the future?
That I can't really speak to.
That will be dependent on the urban core development. Likely, it'll be strongly tied to the gray urban core, the crossroads. So if you haven't seen the gray group's plans for the urban core, I suggest you go to their website, and it's called the Crossroads. So you'll get an idea of what their plans are there, and that Jubilee piece would certainly. That would be a piece of it. And then from Mason Road through to the campus, that will be dependent on the landowner in that strip of land and what their plans are for developing that land. So it is dependent on that for sure. So no specific timing there. A lot of variables.
Yes, when we're in the conceptual plan stage, it tends to, getting those exact dates is a little challenging. The next question was one that's an interesting consideration. So just, will there be netting around the cricket field and baseball diamonds to avoid stray balls from reaching the multi-use trails?
Yeah, that would be our expectation. Yeah. You can see they're all fairly close together, so the safety of surrounding people walking the surroundings are certainly a key objective.
A question around the stormwater ponds. Just a question around whether or not are those ponds lined with rocks. Typically, kind of what do those designs tend to look like?
Yeah, so we're anticipating to have some design guidelines attached to these campus lands in the future, and certainly best practice nowadays would be to have the stormwater ponds look like wetlands. So we're actually calling them constructed wetlands with a natural riparian buffer, vegetated edge, so that they really blend into the landscape. And we spoke to that in the guiding principles as well, is really creating natural spaces that blend into the wilderness area, Bunbury Forest and wetland area nicely, and don't look artificial and engineered.
Great, thanks. The next question was around lighting design. So was lighting design part of the conceptual design? Will dark sky compliant lighting be required for the development? And will measures be put in place to shield residential neighborhoods from the sports field lighting, as trees will typically take 25 to 50 years to grow tall enough? Yeah, that's
another good suggestion for design guidelines. Currently, the plan doesn't contain guidance on it. With regards to the sports field lighting in general, the cricket field would be lit, which is right here, and potentially the artificial turf soccer field, which is the furthest to the south, would also be a lit field, and that it will likely impact. It will create some glare in the sky, and there's as far as mitigation measures go, I'm not sure what can be done, but whatever light fixtures are available to minimize impact, that should be the goal of the town to include those. But yeah, there are a few lit facilities, and we try to keep them as far away from residents as possible.
There is just a question here about whether or not the slide deck will be available after the presentation, and whether or not we can make that available to folks.
Jill?
I don't know if Wendy's on here. I would assume that we can make this available. Wendy's kind of our communications gal, so I'd be speaking for her, unless she wants to speak for herself here. I don't see any issue with sharing the slides.
It will be part of the recorded presentation as well.
Exactly. So there's a question here about, there's been some mention about having performance space at the facilities for arts and performance space, not just sports oriented spaces. Will there be a stage area and audience areas?
Yeah, so we had some interesting discussions around terminology. We're calling this facility right now an indoor facility because we really we don't want to create expectations for one or another facility, but it is the principles of recreation planning nowadays. For example, when towns create recreation master plans, they typically include cultural planning as well. So often these facilities are recreation and culture facilities. So I would anticipate as this evolves that recreation offerings such as stage multi-purpose areas would be included. All depends on how it fits within the general cultural offerings of the town. Are there other stages that are unused in schools or other municipal buildings? So really it depends on the overall inventory and the future needs. So that's something that the town will further explore as the facility gets built.
Great, thank you. There is a question whether or not, with the narrow lanes, would that be able to accommodate snow plows?
Yeah, so these are all engineered, the roads would be all engineered to municipal and provincial standards. So that includes accommodates snow plowing and snow storage.
There's also a question here about trees, specifically down towards the business park. Now, I know we talked about in the presentation that area in the kind of southeastern portion, the plan is to kind of keep all of that heavily forested area intact. But the question is, can you comment on the amount of trees that may be removed as part of the community campus? The business park expansion appears to be in that kind of treed area.
Yeah. So you can see actually here in the rendering the darker shaded trees. Those are the existing the white spruce and red maple that I mentioned. That's this area. So we're not touching it. It also happens to be a drainage corridor, so we couldn't actually build on it. And so the business park is in this area. There is some immature tree growth that will have to be removed. We do, and we mentioned it in our design principles, we're very keen on maintaining this windbreak here on the western side of the campus. So that it's actually, if any of you have ever been out on the campus lands, it's quite mature on the southern extent of it. Beautiful landscape feature, really, that also helps us protect things from wind, just as it used to for farmers. That is why the trees are planted there. And then there's another windbreak that runs roughly in this area, and we're trying to preserve elements of it. We can't keep the entire length of it. And then in terms of kind of urban and new urban forest, all the trees would be are envisioned to be tree lined, and the areas around sports fields would have new tree plantings to create shade for folks when they hang out in the summer. And so we again, most of the land is already cleared. We don't anticipate much tree removal, but in fact quite a bit of new tree introduction throughout the site.
I just want to get that question, Ryan, and And that question came from a former mayor, David Dunphy, and I should have mentioned him off the hop. He was the guy that kind of got this ball rolling. He was the mayor in 2016 and a strong advocate for the community to get this thing off the ground. So I just wanted to mention that.
Okay, great.
Awesome. Well, there was a little follow-up question there as well from former mayor asking about whether or not there's an opportunity or within the plan, are there walking trails planned for that kind of more natural area that we were just talking about?
Yeah, so this is, I assume, with regards to connections into the Bunbury Forest and wetland area. Those are, we were allowing for connections, and if this turns into a wilderness area of sorts, we enable this connectivity. We can't, we haven't designed a trail network or can't anticipate what will actually happen in the area, but it will connect well into the campus in the future.
It will also connect, and again, this is just potential because we don't own this land, and but it is an environmentally sensitive area, a lot of it. So we're hoping we can build a trail across there over to connect with Fullerton's Park, which would be the ideal, and that would be what we'd be looking to do in the future.
Well, that answers one of the other questions that was in the chat as well. 2 birds, 1 stone. Another question here that we had is about, can we talk a little bit about what the planning is in terms of for spectators viewing sports? So will there be hills for advantage viewing or places to view from vehicles? Yeah.
Places to view from vehicles, we haven't specifically thought about. That's an interesting idea. What I can say in terms of spectators on the field, so there is quite a bit of slope on the lands, actually, even though it does, appear flat when you kind of just see it from the road. So we're planning to take advantage of that slope in the sense that the fields will be terraced. So part of our final plan is to come up with a general grading plan, which will essentially depict cross sections of how the spectator seating would happen, because so sports field is a very large flat area that if you place it on a slope, you have to either cut in the slope or fill the slope. So you automatically create these sloped areas outside fields that we are planning to use as spectator areas. So there's no, we currently don't have large bleacher areas because we do want to take advantage of these natural slopes and have people just sit in the grass, or there could be benches on them as well, but it would all kind of be integrated into the landscape.
Great. We also had a question around kind of back to the indoor facility, the talk about, recreation and cultural uses. We've got a participant who's looking for examples of kind of what cultural uses might it be used for?
Yeah, one was already brought up, a stage, a performance area. There's a lot of facilities nowadays are multi-purpose, so you can divide larger rooms into smaller rooms and have them used for practices or performances, music lessons, anything really cultural related. And I'm not entirely familiar with the current cultural offerings in Stratford, but there's the facility again is meant to accommodate anything that that for which there's a need, both on the cultural and the recreational side of things.
I think two opportunities, and I know we have lots of folks in our community that are, into that arts and culture. That community is strong here, so I have confidence that we'll be able to figure out some nice uses for some of that space that is cultural.
There's a question relating to stormwater drainage, and where is the location for drainage closest to the Bunbury Road? Can we pull that up?
So you see on these, you see the stormwater ponds here in this graphic, and so drainage from Bunbury Road would be a combination of open ditches and piped drainage. Essentially, all of it would generally flow into these ponds from the site, and then would be discharged into the wetland.
We're coming to nearing the ends of the questions that I have here. There's also, if folks do have questions that they want to ask themselves, again, you can use the raise hand function there by pushing the reactions button on your toolbar. So there is another question here around, we've talked a little bit about this. It says the map appears flat, but the land has quite a hill. How are slopes utilized in the design? So I know we've talked a bit about that in terms of, the terrace nature of potential seating opportunities, and also the fact that the buildings are placed on the higher levels. Are there any other ways in which slopes have been utilized in the design?
Yeah. So generally, the contours of the site have generally followed the orientation of our main access road. So if you kind of envision parallel to our roads more lines, those are generally the way the contours run. One thing that we thought might be interesting as this moves into detailed design is to actually navigate the slope with where our recreation facility is in a way where you have you walk into the building from the main road, and then the large arena spaces are actually one level down. So you almost have like a walkout basement facility in a way, again, to make sure we get a large flat area for the cricket field. And that could be actually really fantastic as if you envision yourself walking into the large welcome hallway area, and you at the other side of the building, you're elevated one story above the ground, and you would look through a glass facade out onto the wetland area. So that is one of those things that we've been kind of toying with regards to really taking advantage of these great changes. Another one would be views. So the high school lands are quite a bit higher than the rec facility lands. So we envision from at least the second story of the high school, you would also get views over into the wetland area. And those views are quite spectacular when you're kind of walking the site on the higher parts of the land. So yeah, taking advantage of views and grading generally on the site.
There's a question here around the wetland in the adjacent plowed field. Does that suddenly stop at the boundary line, or is there going to be some infill?
Sorry, can you repeat that? The wetland?
Does the wetland in the adjacent plowed field suddenly stop at the boundary line, or is there going to be some infill?
I think it's the one up by the high school, if I'm not mistaken. And Rosemary, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the one up
that little green bump out there.
Yeah, it's actually really funny. This plan makes it look like we're cutting it off, but that's actually the shape of the wetland. It ends where the windbreak is. So we're not plowing over it. It has this strange line, and we checked it several times. This is the shape of the wetland.
There's a question here about, with the number of sports fields is there enough critical mass of a given sports field to host tournaments?
Yeah, the intent is to host tournaments, and that will the numbers of sports fields that the town wants to incorporate on the site, where that came from was really from the desire to have a critical mass for tournaments. And so that does not only include the actual fields, but also the parking for teams to travel from other parts of the island or Atlantic Canada.
Great. There's also a question here around, with the opportunity of active transportation, has there been any conversation with the Department of Transportation to also widen Bunbury shoulders for this from Mount Herbert, pardon me?
No, we haven't had those discussions.
No, and from the town side, I don't think we've had those discussions like even previous to this. So that's something to identify. I think James is actually maybe even on this call, so he can take note of that, our MLA, and also Minister of Transportation. So we got the right guy on this call.
There you go. Get your notes. And the last question that I have in the chat here is, will the outdoor fields replace the current facilities, or will they be additional to the existing fields? I think that's probably within the town of Stratford is the question there.
I guess I could take a crack at this, Stefan. The outdoor fields, ball fields, of course, aren't the ball fields that are existing today within the town would stay. We're actually at we're in a severe pinch with ball fields. So these additional ball fields will be a welcome amenity for many little kids playing minor ball. So they'll be in addition to the soccer fields. The existing soccer fields today actually are within our business park. And that's where they were put at one time because that's where the town had land. And now that we have this opportunity with the campus, we would look to move those soccer fields up to the campus, at a time that works for everyone. But that would be the end goal, is to move the current soccer fields up to the campus. And then that area where the soccer fields are now would be developed into, we do have a bit of a crunch with our business park. So we kind of need that business park area back. So that's what's going to happen over time with the soccer fields.
Thanks, Jill. We've come to the end of the questions in the chat. Are there any other questions that folks haven't had the chance to ask yet?
I just saw another note that, and I just going back to the soccer fields, there are other soccer fields throughout the town that would stay in place. They're not going to be moved either. It would just be those ones that are in the business park area that would be moved.
Will the T Hill cricket pitch stay?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. That's a question I'll have to get an answer to. I don't know if the cricket field and the campus is in addition to, or if that's a replacement. I don't know that offhand.
Yeah, I think it's something that would have to be looked at. It's there has been some difficulties with the cricket pitch where it is, but we have invested a fair bit of money in that. But I think it would have to be done in consultation with the cricket community and decide where the best location is for a cricket field. The other thing that could happen is a smaller area could be made available for practice or whatever, and the other one would be for games or tournaments and that sort of thing. So there is a number of options, but that would be, as Stefan mentioned earlier, at the detailed design stage, we'd probably have an answer to that when it got to that point for development of that area.
Question, if the soccer fields are relocated to the campus, will the Stratford Soccer Club building be relocated also?
Yes. I'm this isn't something that has been discussed. I think it's probably just been assumed to this point, but we can certainly get those answers and get back to you, Pat. I can run that by the teams just to be sure that all that infrastructure will be moving with the soccer fields, but we can get back to you on that.
Any other questions? Oh, will the plan include free Wi-Fi?
That'd be great.
That's been brought up to this point. We'll have to see what the IT teams think of that. But yeah, it's a great idea to capture and see if it's something we can work. There's a few ideas in here that I think are something that hasn't come up to this point in discussion. So I think there's lots of stuff to capture here.
There is another question here that's just come in. It says, earlier in the presentation, there was a mention of outdoor education center or a discovery center. And I know that was within the, I think the nice to haves list. Just wondering where that might be located, if that does go ahead.
Yeah, so all of these outdoor functions we are hoping to accommodate in our park in the core. So it's quite a large park. Discovery Center might be misunderstood as an actual indoor facility. We haven't accommodated space for another indoor facility, but certainly as far as outdoor education, learning opportunities go, that Central Park area we see as a really nice, having nice synergies with the surrounding users to provide these types of experiences.
Yes, I think people are excited about the possibility of outdoor education infrastructure.
There was a big discussion in the high school design too, like from the educational perspective, outdoor education was a big topic of conversation on that end too, in that design. So, and we do have a strong watershed group here, and they're going to be excellent to coordinate design on something to that effect one day for sure.
Great. There's just another comment here around, just a hope that the known traffic volumes on Bunbury Road, and that it'll be one of only 2 ways into the high school and campus to start, leads to a roundabout at the entrance so that Duffy Road is realigned and asphalt shoulders included to Mount Herbert. For safety reasons, this will have to happen. So just another point there around, wanting to see that additional infrastructure put in place to Mount Herbert. A friendly reminder and a hope. We'll really appreciate it.
Andrea will stay on that. I know she will. So she's and she's a good advocate for all those. She'd be a resident over on that Bunbury Road, and she's a strong advocate for. She has kids in the area, and so she's got some great ideas over there.
Awesome. Any other questions, or should we wrap it up and let you all enjoy your evenings?
Just before we close, I do want to thank everyone for participating in this, and again for Councillor Burridge's leadership on this. She's done an amazing job, and it's just great to have her on council and in our community. So I really want to thank her for this leadership. I also want to publicly thank our partners who have, for instance, the Stratford Area Watershed Improvement Group, the provincial government, you know, all the sports organizations, everyone that's provided input, and everyone on this call who's provided questions and insights and suggestions, and on the implementation committee. I think it's just been a great experience and a great model for any future developments in terms of really doing things right and trying to get them, spending the time to get things right the first time, so that in the future people will look back and say, you know, we planned well. So thank you all for everything you're doing, and thank you, Stefan, for your presentation.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
There's one guy here we haven't mentioned, and I feel like I wouldn't feel right leaving this without talking about Robert Hughes. He is retiring on December 24th, and he has been, if we were a football team, he's been the guy holding the ball and running up the field for a lot of this. He has juggled a lot, and he has made this happen really and truly. So Robert, we wish you a great retirement, and this is a legacy that you certainly have left behind here with all your hard work. So thank you.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I really want to thank Robert as well. Thanks, Robert.
And Stefan, if you don't mind just putting the slide with the email address up at the end, that would be very helpful for anyone who just wants to take that down for directing any additional questions that might come up after this.
Yeah, I think Rosemary was looking about her hedgerows, so we'll get back to Rosemary.
I responded to her directly.
Okay, all right, perfect. We'll get back to Rosemary. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.